Welcome back. WNST Cleveland are my favorite weeks of the year, but certainly amongst my favorite weeks of the year to do radio. I have so many friends out in Cleveland. I always love talking sports, and, of course, them being a three-sports city. And, so much between the Ravens and the Browns and Ozzie Newsome and Art Modell and the history and even the Phil Savages and the George Kokinis's and the Hugh Jacksons out there. But this guy left Baltimore, and he ain't ever coming back. He was a longtime Orioles announcer here back in the day at Home Team Sports. He's doing college football. He does all the Cleveland sports out there, despite being a Detroit native. He's one of my favorite dudes. We welcome the man, the myth, the legend, who now knows what a Cleveland parade feels like, Michael Reghi. At the end, we'll say, see you later, but right now we say, welcome back, man. What's going on, my friend? How's my dude, huh?
Ho, 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 my good man. How are you feeling on this fine winter day?
Ho, ho, ho. It's funny you'd say that because one of the determining factors of whether I want to come out and see an 0-13 football team this week or just take a bye week and just chill out on my couch, which I never used to do as a young guy, might be going to the Christmas Story house out there. I look at it this way, Mike. If I come out there this weekend and we win, we're supposed to win, right? But my God, if you don't make the playoffs because you lose to DeShone Kizer and the 0-13 Cleveland Browns, it's tough to come home, right? I mean, literally. This is part of the Ravens' narrative for this season, especially in losing to Pittsburgh in the fashion that they did on Sunday night, is that this is a must-win for the Ravens. It's a playoff game for them this week.
Yeah, and I can imagine that that type of conversation, as you just alluded to, has been stimulated since the loss to Pittsburgh. So, no, completely understood. And you're coming in to see an 0-13 football team, Nestor, that just hasn't learned how to win, how to finish, how to close. They're the youngest team in the NFL. We can get into all those machinations if you like. But the fact is, it's just not an NFL talented football team that's ready to compete week in and week out. And hence you get 0-13 and all the wonderment here if it's going to be a zippity-doo-dah for this the final 3 weeks and have that offer hanging over their heads, which, as we know, hasn't been done since the Detroit Lions have pulled that feat off. So, Nestor, it's there's so much that goes with it. I'm sure you want to get into some of those areas, but maybe with the new general manager, John Dorsey, things are going to start to upswing beginning with this offseason and into the draft of 18.
The thing that worries me is you said something in there that they're not going to be competitive week to week. It's weird. They've been competitive almost every week. And, I go back to the old Colts days here, Michael, when we stunk, at the end with Irsay. You go back and look at some of those scores, 31-0, 28-3, 44-10. That's usually with a bad team. And the early Cleveland team, the first exhibition or expansion team, I should say, with Tim Couch, they put a lot of those up where the Steelers would go beat them 41-0 early in the year. This has been a pretty competitive team, and from everyone I've talked to already, Hugh has them ready to play every week. They don't have enough talent, but they have enough moxie, and especially now with Josh Gordon running around out there, they certainly have a weapon to do some damage against the Ravens on Sunday. And the Ravens never come out there and waltz. I see you there every year where they're eating, Jimmy Haslam's cookies and his salad up there in the press area and talking. And every year you see me and Kevin Byrne, Ozzie up there at halftime, and every year we're, looking at each other and everybody's looking around saying, hey, the Browns got a lead or they're up 13-10 at the half or whatever, because that's the way this game plays out every year, Mike.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt about that. And you're correct. They've been able to do that this year. In other words, find a way to stay in football games, be competitive, and yet, as I said, it was never more magnified than this last game against the Green Bay Packers, Nestor. I don't know how many of your listeners had a chance to see it, but here they are. Browns are up 21-7. Everybody's feeling real good. Go to that fourth quarter. All right, this is going to be the one. Again, not going to blow a 2-touchdown lead in the fourth quarter. Not going to find a way to do that with Aaron Rodgers standing over there on the sidelines and not able to compete. And yet, of course, it happened. They completely got away from what served them well in the first three quarters of the football game, tied up, overtime, loss. So, again, it continues to hang on. They're too young. They don't know how to finish. They don't know how to close. Yes, they've been competitive. Yes, they've gone into fourth quarters down by 3, down by 6, down by 7, or tied. But it's 0-13. And to invoke one of my favorites of all time, Nestor, you know the bottom line, man. Bill Parcells said it. You are what your record says you are. You can try to clean it up and put lipstick on the pig, but you are that. You're 0-13. And there's a lot of reasons why they're there, but a lot of it is because they just are too young, the youngest team in the NFL. You cannot win. I'm sure you'll agree with me. You cannot win in the NFL with your whole roster virtually made up of rookies, second, and third-year guys. It just doesn't work, and the Browns are finding that out. And that was my biggest problem with the just relieved of his duties, Sashi Brown. Nestor, my contention was, I said this to you, though, when we've gotten together before, the biggest mistake he made, analytics and all that, that's fine, but you did not have to tear this team down to its studs and go down to making this roster bereft of talent and then having to make it the youngest in the league. I didn't like when he did that. I thought it was an egregious mistake, and I believe it's showing up as we speak now at 0-13.
Well, I mean, keeping Alex Mack around, they kept Joe Thomas around. Bitonio's been a decent player. I mean, I don't know that they brought in Collins. I don't know that anybody really went out the side door so much other than the center, who was a great player and had a bad injury and all that stuff, and led the Falcons almost to winning the Super Bowl last year. But, I look at the team right now, and every year I saw him come in here, especially when Pettin was the coach, and I do defer because I like Mike Pettin. He was a friend of mine, and I thought he did the best job of all of those guys at any point of winning games. And there's, if there's a knock on Mike Pettin, I mean, he had more success than any of those guys, but he also had some players there. I mean, Hayden was on the ascent at that time. There were a couple of guys there that felt like there was going to be a cornerstone that if they could get a quarterback, which really that's the issue, right? Somebody told me the number's now 28. There have been 28 quarterbacks since 1999.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up, Mike Pettin, because as you know, as we talked about, I like Mike as well. And Mike got in a situation where, he was forced to play, and we won't go into it except to say, here he is sitting at 7-4 in 2014, and at that time, going into December, in the playoffs, not just in the hunt, at 7-4 in the playoffs, never won another game after that. The owner and general manager decided you got to play Johnny Manziel, which train wreck, as we know, and they never won another football game. Mike was the victim of that. I like Mike, and I think the players responded to him as well. But Nestor, real quickly.
Well, the number is the number, right? Or they're 1 and what is it? 1-27, whatever that number is, right?
They're 4-45 since then.
Since then, right? Okay.
45 since that 14, 15, 16. And 17, that's what they are. I guess it counts the last 5 that Pettin lost.
1-28's the number, by the way. I lost track.
Nestor, that's hard to do, man, right? We talk about how winning is difficult to do in the National Football League and do it consistently and sustain it and with success. Yes, it is. But losing to this dramatic effect, to me, it's mind-boggling that it could happen. But real quickly, you mentioned, we'll go back to Mike Pettin. To me, the best teams in the NFL, I don't see Ozzie Newsome letting guys that are coming into their second contract at 25, 26 years of age that are the core, the lifeblood of your football team, walk away. You ready for all these? That the Browns decided they did no longer. 25, 26-year-olds played 4 years, starters, productive, T.J. Ward, Jabal Sheard, Mitchell Schwartz, Tashawn Gibson, Travis Benjamin. Now, okay, we're going to say, well, Reghi, those aren't Hall of Fame. They're not Hall of Fame. But again, go to the good organizations in this league. Those guys are your starters and solid NFL starters. Very good players. Your core pieces. You didn't want to re-sign them. Let's go walk out the door. And oh, by the way, who took all those guys? The dregs of the NFL? No. T.J. Ward, Denver, Super Bowl. Jabal Sheard, Bill Belichick wanted him, right? Mitchell Schwartz, you want to put an all-pro right there? Andy Reid said, I'll take him. So, to me, look where these guys, where they were desired and where they landed. And the Browns didn't even have enough foresight to continue to want to sign their own developed 25, 26-year-olds coming into the fourth year in the NFL. That's what bothers me. You don't build a franchise that way. They let all these guys walk out the door. Let's tear it all down. But to me, ridiculous, not how you do your business, and you get what you got coming to you.
He is Michael Reghi. We welcome him back to Baltimore. Legendary Baltimore Orioles broadcaster back in the day, along with Cakes and our dear departed friend Mike Flanagan as well. All of our WNST programming here brought to you by our friends at Deli-ish on Wise Avenue over in Dundalk. New York-style deli with Reuben's, corned beef, and legit sandwiches like that curly fryer. And it's the holidays. They will cater in for you. No problem. Just go find them on the web at delibaltimore.com. Throw your order in, and they'll have it ready for you on the holidays. Deli-ish on Wise Avenue. You're not going to get any better corned beef than that. I promise you that. Deli-ish, Wise Avenue, and delibaltimore.com. Also brought to you by our friends Lee Tessier and his team at Keller Williams American Premier Realty. Wishing you a happy holidays. You list your house with Lee, and you risk nothing. His team's going to get your house sold. They are available at Lee Tessier. That's TESSIER.com. Lee Tessier and his team at Keller Williams American Premier Realty. You can follow Michael Reghi and his journey through college football in the Midwest and all things Cleveland at Michael Reghi. And, of course, anybody that's been around the block once or twice here knows that he had a lot of association with bad ownership here in Baltimore on the baseball side. And, Mike, we're about to go into the hole here on the baseball side again. But, you know, I really do, when I look at the Browns and I say, well, the one thing that's constant through 4 and 46 would be Jimmy Haslam. And someone gave me the number, like 5th general manager now, 4th coach since like 2012 or something crazy. And I wrote the Peter Principles, and it was really that way with Angelos. When you know, at the beginning, those first 5 years where you come in and you go through 5 general managers and burn through 3 managers or coaches or whatever, and you're changing like socks. And here we go with Hugh Jackson, right? Like maybe it's going to get to 0-16. Probably will if they don't win this week. They got to go on the road to Chicago and then Pittsburgh the last week, and the Steelers are going to win. So, you know, if you're going to cycle through, and to your point, there's no continuity, so there's no long-term decision-making. Now here comes Dorsey last week at the end of a season. You've got this quarterback in Kaiser that, you know, you might as well throw him to the Wolves because Dorsey's going to draft a quarterback in the spring. There's no doubt about that, right? So there's all of this thing going on, including maybe Hugh Jackson wanting to go down to Cincinnati if Marvin steps aside. So you might be going through another head coaching search in 4 weeks, right? I mean, that's a very real possibility at 1-31 and 0-16, right?
No question about that. And I believe that is going to take place. Now, Look, Hugh Jackson got the year of Jimmy Haslam. And, look, Haslam, for the first time, and all those head coaches that you mentioned, whether it was Pat Shurmur or Mike Pettin and, you know, how this whole thing played out, and then on into Hugh Jackson for his second season. The thing that was a constant is Haslam was never able to get the guy that he wanted because, hey, not a lot of people as head coaches in this league want to cast their lot with the Cleveland Browns. That's completely understandable. Hugh Jackson was the guy he wanted, Nestor. He took him away from the New York Giants, who were ready to hire him as their head coach 2 years ago. So
I bet he would have done better than McAdoo. That's just my opinion.
Well, probably. Yeah, I would think so.
He would still have a job there and be there, and he would be, right?
Yeah, different type of football team. I'll agree with you there. When you look at where it is now, though, see, he wants Hugh Jackson to succeed, and there's no other way to put it, because that was his guy. That was his handpicked guy, and he feels good about he kept him away from the New York Giants. Great. But the bottom line is, I don't believe John Dorsey's going to want to go down this road. So it's going to be very interesting at the end of this year. Haslam has came out last week when he hired Dorsey, Hugh Jackson will be our football coach. He's got a contract in 18, and I hope beyond. Well, that's all well and good. But I got a feeling in 3 more football games, you know, Ravens, and as you pointed out, Chicago and Pittsburgh, I got a feeling John Dorsey's going to say, Mr. Haslam, we need to talk. I don't think it's in our best interest to go forward this way, and I want to bring in my head football coach, which most general managers do, correct, in the NFL? So I believe it's going to come to this. I don't think Hugh Jackson will be the head football coach in 2018. For you, there's been trying to wear the two hats for him, Nestor, just hasn't worked. And listen, maybe he does go back. Who knows? Maybe Mike Brown brings him back in if Marvin Lewis gets pink-slipped at the end of this year, and he's the head football coach for the Bengals. He had tremendous success there as the OC. I think he's one of those guys that'll be like Pat Shurmur. Well, Shurmur's doing a tremendous job with Mike Zimmer as the OC of the Minnesota Vikings, playing Case Keenum, for God's sakes, and keeping that offense together and being highly productive. So I think that's what Hugh Jackson is best suited for. He's trying to be both the CEO of the 53-man and in that room and on the field on game day, and they're running his offense as well. That's a tough deal, Nestor, as you know. That's a real tough deal. I think Hugh's got to decide one way or the other. If he does stay here in Cleveland, I'll guarantee you that Dorsey says, you're going to get an offensive coordinator, and he's going to run that offense, and you're going to CEO this thing on the field. And that's the area, game management, personnel groupings, usage of timeouts or not. That's the area, Nestor, that Hugh has not done a real good job in this year. And that's why I believe that Dorsey's going to really be stringent with him to Jimmy Haslam and say, I need to make a move with my head coach.
Well, I mean, they've burned through GMs there in 24-month cycles. If you're going to be the GM for 24 months, you're going to do it with your guy, right? I mean, that only stands to reason, right?
Yeah, well, of course. I mean, I'm a little bit surprised. That's why I said, it's come out. A lot of the beat writers seem to feel that, no, he hasn't laid all this out to him, and he took this job, again, and knowing that, hey, Hugh Jackson's going to be here. Again, I've got my doubts about that, and I've got a feeling that Dorsey is going, that's the reason, so he's seeing 4 football games. He's got a month of, he was in that locker room after and just stood off in the corner to see how players reacted and what have you after that loss on Sunday. So I think he's got a real vested interest in wanting to make this right as a guy who's had a lot of success in the NFL. And to me, I think that his first step in making it right is going to make Mr. Haslam see that they need another head football coach in here.
Been hard to make him see much of anything, right? He might be going to prison, literally, and, not a lot of is made of it, maybe not even in Cleveland or throughout the league, and with all the other problems the league has right now with Jerry suing everybody, and now the NFL Network has sexual misconduct allegations, and we got fans in the knee, and all of that, all the injuries, the CTE, all the problems that they have out there. I would say an owner going to prison would really not be a good look for the NFL, right? Yeah. That would. I'm just saying.
Certainly, I think that would cause for some pause in the NFL Board of Governors and with their owners. Absolutely. That's all hanging over everybody's head here. And look, Jimmy Haslam has not shown to one length or extent of all that an owner you would hope needs to fulfill and accomplish, that he's got a real good handle on how that works in the National Football League. It's been nothing but continued, as you mentioned, turnover, lack of sustainability, lack of continuity, and more importantly, lack of winning, which...
Well, we're 2 years away from them taking the drunk down in Texas A&M and him telling the coach, play him. I mean, like, that, that's what a 65-year-old man did 2 years ago, right? Like, literally, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, look.
Well, there's no teaching that dog new tricks, probably, right? I mean, literally.
No. And he came out on the day he hired John Dorsey and made a real, wanted to make everybody, took a second to let everybody know that he had nothing to do with, he's so intimately tied with the University of Tennessee, his brother, the governor, their large University Vol supporters, wanted to let everybody know he had nothing at all to do with the Greg Schiano fiasco or Philip Fulmer stepping in or the ultimate hiring of Jeremy Pruitt, that he and his good buddy, Nestor, Peyton Manning, had nothing to do with all of that. So now if you believe that, then you know what? Look out on Lake Erie Sunday and we'll sell you some icebergs. So
that was the strangest thing I've ever seen. I mean, you love to opine on sports, and you see the game at a far deeper level than most fans on the inside from the executive level and what goes on. Billick and I were talking about this 2 weeks ago. The Schiano thing, we're in a whole different world right now when that can happen down there. And it speaks volumes to how crazy college football and boosterism is, right?
Yeah, no doubt. And it's gone beyond any comprehension that any of us grew up with the game, and that's fine as long as all of this forward progress is in areas that best serve the game and best serve the players and the universities and their programs. But boy, I didn't hear you and Brian in your conversation, but I'm sure I know what areas it went to, and knowing Coach Billick like I do. I probably would agree with them 100% because the coaching side of things, in a way, in college football, as much as I love it, I'm more passionate about that probably than anything at this point in my career, Nestor, and calling it every week. But I tell you what, in some ways, it's gotten sleazy and it's gotten very distasteful. And
well, the internet's gotten involved, so everybody's a booster now, right? Like literally, right?
Well, listen, I don't like painting with a broad brush because that's the first thing fans do. They say, well, if something goes wrong in one program, they immediately say, well, Alabama's doing that, and Ohio State's doing that, and USC's doing that, and Michigan's doing that. Well, you know what? I'm going to take every one of them on equal footing. But again, there are situations on the coaching side and how it pertains to the NCAA and how that affects players. A coach leaves after the season because he gets a better opportunity. That's great. That's fine. Good for him. And then there's 95 guys in that room that are recruited by that guy. And now, unless you're a senior and a graduate, fifth-year guy, you got to sit there while a new coach comes in who doesn't even want you, may try to run you off, and then you got to go sit if you want to change programs. The NCAA has got to change that and do something about that because it's not for the good of players who are the pawns in all of this.
Michael Reghi, you can follow him out on Twitter as well as at ESPN Cleveland. And anything you want to say about baseball? Because I know you love baseball, and the tribe has sort of resurrected all that out there. And we love when you called the games out here in Baltimore all those years. But the Orioles are about to go into a deep, dark hole here, and here come the Yankees and dealing for Stanton. And, Machado's sweepstakes have now begun because he's certainly on watch. If they don't deal him this week or next week, they don't deal him in the summer, they'll wind up getting nothing for him. And they don't have any pitching, and everybody's getting better around them. It's an ugly time around here if the Ravens don't get this done and play a few games in January.
Well, yeah, and I mean, to your point about the baseball thing, my question to you is, do the Birds have interest in my old buddy, that sweet swinging left-handed hitting first baseman, 53-year-old Rafael Palmeiro? Are Rafi going to come back and play for the O's?
Who knows, man? I mean, I can't bet against it, Michael. I just can't do it.
Rarely do you get quiet, my man. I just got you to pause.
Reghi quieted me, and there shall be the end of this interview. You won again, Reghi. Hey, man, love you, appreciate you. I hope to get there and shoot my eye out at the Christmas Story House this weekend with you guys out there in the land of Cleve. Always good to catch you. You call any bowl games before you go?
Yeah, man, I'll be doing a couple, awaiting the assignments. Just got done with the FCS and Division II playoffs these past 3 weeks. So,
tell everybody where you've been the last couple weeks, because your journey isn't like Alabama, Ohio State, Stanford, USC.
No.
You're going to tell me the places you've been lately. I want to know, because
I was just in Indiana, Pennsylvania. You know where that is?
IUP. I had a roommate. He said IUP. It stood for I used to party.
I used to party. I like that. I wish I would have known that when. That's the moniker they attached to that when I was there. But about 20 miles away from there is Blairsville, Pennsylvania, the home of Jimmy Stewart.
Well, they're all Steelers fans up there, so I don't go anywhere near those people.
Yeah.
I got in and out of Pittsburgh quickly.
Was out in force, man, and it was the day before the weekend of the Ravens being in town. So it was a black and gold craze. There's no doubt about that. But Yeah, I've been there. Mostly call in the Power Five and the Group of Five. Mostly American Athletic Conference and also the Mid American Conference in college football. College hoops, I bounce all around, and of course with the shows here in Cleveland. So always blessed, Nestor. Never worked a day in my life. Still blessed to be having people desiring me to call games. So
definitely,
I love.
From the gridiron to the hardwoods and back again. Reg, I love you, man. Travel safe. We'll stay in touch, all right?
Happy holidays. Merry Christmas to you and your lovely wife and to all of your listeners, Nestor. Always a pleasure,
Come
man.
on, I'm not going to let you go without saying see you later. You got to do it. Come on, man. It's your thing.
But you want me all right, I will. For all of you wonderful Baltimoreans and those that I am so fond of in Charm City, have a wonderful holiday season, a happy new year, and see you later.
All right, there he goes, Michael Reghi. I'm not going to let him do that to me, not during the holidays. I mean, it's like having a holidays without eggnog or like pumpkin pie or whatever, cookies. I had to have Mr. Rooney's cookies. I'm going to have Mr. Haslam's cookies this week out in Cleveland. Luke's going to be in the backfields in Owings Mills. If there's any breaking news, you always get it first on the WNST Tech Service. That's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. And, of course, Dennis will be here on Thursday from 3 until 5, driving you home with the SSV on WNST. Our morning newspaper ships to your email inbox each and every morning, 7 a.m., bright and early. It's there for you right on your mobile device, ships digitally. It's all brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com, where you can work off the aforementioned eggnog. Never any commitment, always $10 a month, PlanetFitness.com. Last but never least, I'm out in the buyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day. It's Toyotathon season right now. So get on out there to buyatoyota.com audio vault. Listen to anything you miss here, anytime. Download the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world. All brought to you by buyatoyota.com. Nasty at WNST.net reaches me. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram. Streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.